I was told my baby hadn't grown in 4 weeks. I had concerns last Monday that they would use this to try and induce me, stop me having a home birth, or just like really control my labor.
Hey friend, I know you don't know me, and I don't know you. I saw you post this video and I thought you could use a buddy with just a little bit of extra knowledge than just a random buddy. I can be your buddy that has a little bit of labor and delivery knowledge. I'm a labor and delivery nurse. So I thought that I could help talk you through what this might look like for you. I am not here to talk you out of a home birth, to talk you into being induced, to talk you into being in the hospital. I'm not here to talk to you about any of that. I just wanted to talk to you about what your providers are seeing and what that could mean, and how the information that we can get prenatally can help us to have a more informed and empowered birth.
Obviously, I'm not saying that I am more of a doctor or a midwife than a doctor and a midwife, but I definitely know my body. I'm the only one that will have a gut feeling about my baby and my body. No one else can have gut feelings. They can have textbook opinions, but I don't have anything that makes me a high risk. So I'm going to go ahead with the home birth. I finally have a scan today.
So it sounds like your doctor or midwife, maybe they measured your belly and saw that it really hadn't grown in 4 weeks. And it sounds like they sent you for a growth scan that took a few days to do. And that you're going, I think today, to have an ultrasound done to look at the growth of your little babe. So I don't know if you are or are not going to be diagnosed with something called IUGR, or intrauterine growth restriction. But if your baby truly has not grown in 4 weeks, that may be a diagnosis that's coming.
And I'm going to surround myself with positive birth media, stories, videos. I just don't know why I was thinking about packing up all of my home comforts to go to a hospital with bright lights.
I care for so many people who have the exact same beautiful mindset where we protect our peace by only consuming media that is going to further make it seem possible to have exactly the kind of birth experience that we want. And as your new friend, I'm going to talk to you like I would talk to my sister. And that is that sometimes, especially if we are presented with information that may cause things might need to go differently, that we plan just as much for the birth that we do not want, so that if anything goes differently, it is not as traumatic of a change. I've held the hands of so many women who have gotten information at the end of pregnancy that completely hijacks their entire birth plan. One time I had a patient in room 17. She had planned her entire pregnancy for a water birth, right? She had taken classes, she had a doula, she had all the things to make a water birth more likely for her. She was even low risk. She had declined an induction twice, and she came in after her water broke. She was 42 weeks pregnant, and her baby had pooped big fat dump inside of her, which risked her out of her water birth. But because she had only taken in the kind of birth stories that she wanted, she had no idea how to navigate a birth situation that looked different than what she thought it might. I sat down with her and I held her hand and I told her that even though her birth experience was going to look different than she thought it was, that I was going to do everything in my power to make sure that she still had an informed, empowered, beautiful birth that she could look back on fondly. So I wanted to walk down that road with you of what happens if you go to your growth scan today and they give you that news that you don't want, and that your baby is diagnosed with something called IUGR, or intrauterine growth restriction. What does that mean? It means that there's something going on with the placenta, no fault of yours or your baby's, that is not allowing your baby to get everything that they need in order to grow in the way that we expect them to grow. So I want you to think of IUGR as like a cell phone and a cell phone charger, okay? Your baby is the cell phone and your placenta is the cell phone charger. So let's say that you plug your phone in all night long. That's the pregnancy part. Your placenta is hooked up to your baby and it's giving it the juice that it needs. And unfortunately, there's something going on with the charger to where it's not giving all the juice that it needs to the phone. So when you go to unplug the phone, the birth part, your baby, the cell phone, does not have as much juice charge that it needs, which can make labor and birth sometimes can be dangerous because your baby does not have as much reserve as it needs to in order to get through a labor and birth situation. So sometimes when IUGR babies go through labor and birth, we can see them not being able to tolerate it as well as a baby with a charger that was giving it full juice. IUGR babies are more at risk for adverse outcomes, which is why your doctor or midwife may say, hey, we really think it's a good idea to deliver in the hospital and not at home. You have to make your own informed and empowered decision about that. But if you have an IUGR baby going through labor at home and we're checking on that baby every once in a while with a Doppler, we may miss some really big warning signs of a baby that's in trouble. Also, IUGR babies are more likely to need some help from a NICU team at birth. And if your baby needs that at home, there would be a delay in getting your baby that care. So if you have a baby who is having trouble growing, why would we induce you? Shouldn't we just let that baby cook more? Well, not necessarily, because if you have a problem with your phone charger, that phone charger is not getting any better on the inside. It's only going to continue to get worse, right? So if we can get that baby out, we are able to give your baby the juice that they need in order to grow and thrive and do great things. Taking in positive birth stories when you're pregnant is so important. It's important to not feel scared. But another thing that kind of helps us to not feel as scared is when we have information, because that information can become power. Another piece of information is that ultrasounds are notoriously bad at predicting weight of baby, but what they're good at is tracking progress or growth. So if your doctor came to you and like, oh my gosh, your baby is looking really big on ultrasound, we need to have a C-section, that would not be based in evidence because ultrasounds can be off for that. But if your baby has had a scan before and then we're comparing that one to this one, that is a more accurate representation of what's going on in there. So today, if you go to that growth scan and they give you the crappy news that your baby does have something called intrauterine growth restriction, I challenge you to change your mindset on thinking that it's them trying to control your labor, but instead giving you information that you need to be able to make informed and empowered decisions for yourself and for your baby. The great news is that you get to make whatever informed and empowered decision makes sense to you. But if you did continue on with a home birth and they were in full support, knowing the risks of what could happen, and they didn't tell you, that would also be wrong. And this conversation may not even be necessary because you may go to your growth scan today and they're like, oh my gosh, look at your baby doing so well. I just wanted to have a conversation with you to prepare you in case that conversation went a little differently than you hoped. And if things do go differently in your birth than you had planned for, it doesn't mean that you can't have a beautiful birth experience. I wish you all the best. Grow, baby, grow.